Y'all, it's almost 5 o'clock on a Saturday evening in New Orleans. There is a bikers club right next door to my house, and they are setting up and they are getting ready to have themselves a good old time. I'm gonna try to get through this video as quickly as I can because Lil Boosie about to come on any minute now. And I apologize in advance for what y'all might hear. Okay, I cannot control that. If it's your first time here, my name is Amber, and a special welcome to you. And friends, today I'm going to be sharing with you a few ways that you can assess if you're ready for marriage. Okay, now today I'm just going to talk about three things, but trust, there are plenty more things out there to consider. But I just want to talk about three things that I really feel like when I was single, these were the defining factors. These were the things where I was like, okay, yeah, that's important. It's foundational and just things that jumped out at me. So let's go ahead and get into number one. I believe the first sign that you know that you're ready for marriage is whenever you have an understanding of who you are. Now, what I mean by this is not your favorite color, not your favorite food, not, what type of lifestyle you want to have. Listen, all those things are cute, but at the end of the day, you can't really lean on those things to help you understand who you really are, like the core of who you are. I believe that in my relationship with God and what I've seen and heard from others' experiences, He's not the one to lay out the 5-year plan. Okay. He's not the one to tell all the details of your future and what's going to happen from this year to that year and this time to that time. That's not how he works, okay? Sometimes he will give you a glimpse, but a lot of times we're like Abraham. He meets us where we are and he says, go. Sometimes we can be like a Paul, where Paul knew very early on that he was called to the ministry and that he would do hard things for the gospel, but he didn't know the map. He didn't know what was going to happen from, one season to the next. And so for each of us, it can be a little different. But I do think it's important while you are single to pay attention to the things that the Lord has on your heart. Pay attention to the different desires He's given you, the passions He's given you. Who are the type of people that God has just given you a burden for? I knew very early on that I would work with children from hard places. And I knew from the time I was a kid that I would adopt children one day, and I had a heart for orphans. So when I was dating and getting to know different people, you meet the guy, they want to take you out. That's cute. But, when they ask those cute questions, what's your favorite color? What's your whatever? But, it was always important for me to bring up what I saw in the future, like what I knew God was calling me to do, because something like adopting a child, that's not on everybody's bingo card, okay? That is a special calling for certain people. And even though we're all called to serve orphans in different ways, allowing a child to move into your home, I mean, that's a big deal. And so I never judged anyone if they didn't have that, same desire as me. But I did bring it up because I didn't want later on down the road for it to come off as a surprise, or, well, Amber, you never spoke about that, or, y'all know what I'm trying to say. So I just think it's important, if you know that God has given you a heart for the mission field and He's calling you to one day, maybe you're in the United States and God has really given you a burden for the UK and going to the UK one day and being a missionary. Or maybe for some of you, that you are called to full-time ministry. And so it's just important to pay attention to these things in your dating relationships, because you never want to compromise to that degree, right? So let's go back to the missionary example. If God is calling you to go abroad, to go overseas, then you might not want to date a man who feels called to be a pastor in his small town and he ain't going nowhere. Okay, look, that's a real thing. I'm laughing, but it's real. There are some people out there, and some men, let's say men, and they're like, okay, like I know I'm going to lead the family business one day, whether it's the mechanic shop, the bakery, the church, even though the church is not a business. a lot of times men know these things, okay? So it's just important to be open and honest with yourself. Of course, be open and honest with, whoever you might be getting to know at the time. And there's other things too you should know about yourself, such as your values. Like, what are things that you really value, right? So for me, I can only use myself as an example, and I'm not trying to talk about myself a whole bunch. I'm just trying to help y'all understand. Um, but for me, I really knew I valued freedom. And so I am a risk taker. I get bored easily. And, my mom would always tell me growing up, Amber, God has wired you to work for yourself. You are called to be an entrepreneur. And I fought that for a very long time. I know these days people think it's so glitz and glam and all that, but my mom always saw that in me. And now I am an entrepreneur. But when I think back, I'm like, oh, yeah, like, I'm sorry. No offense to anyone, but personally, I couldn't, be with someone who feels called to more of a traditional lifestyle. That's just not the way that I'm wired. And thankfully, God has blessed my husband and I to be able to work together and have our own business. And I'm not saying that makes us better than anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying you have to know who you are. I know other people, they could never be an entrepreneur. That is so far from their personal DNA. And it's not because they don't have the skill set, it's just because they really value stability and security, and they don't want to live a life like that that's full of risk. And I get that. So understand who you are. I could talk a whole lot more about this, but I do want to keep it moving along. So let's go ahead and go to point number 2. The second way I believe that you know you're ready for marriage is when you get to a point where you are tired of living just for yourself. Okay? The day you wake up and you lay in bed and you think, man, there's more to life out there than just me. There's more to do and experience far beyond myself. That right there is a big indicator that you are in a place of maturity and preparedness and readiness to get married. Listen, we all hear it. In your 20s, that's your time. The 20s is the time for you to do what you want to do. And I do believe that to a certain extent. But I will say that I believe as followers of Christ, we are called to live sacrificially. We are called to live selflessly, right? And so as God continues to transform us, as he matures us and grows us in our faith, we should always be looking out for the interest of others. And we should start to adopt this mindset and this perspective of, really looking out for others and what are their needs, right? Really think about what a wife is, okay? Because biblically, a wife is not just a woman that has a ring and that has a husband, okay? To be a wife means to be a helpmate. And I talk to single women about this all the time. If you do not enjoy serving others, helping others, if it's something you don't do at all, then marriage is going to be a very rude awakening for you. And I say that with as much love as I can. I think for some of us, we don't really understand, what marriage really is and what it looks like. We just know you get a wedding and you get beautiful pictures and you get a nice piece of jewelry and you create a registry and all of these things. But, that's just the cute stuff you do in the beginning. But marriage is forever. And so if you are not used to working that muscle of putting others before yourself, and sometimes going without so that others can have. And I'm not talking about you starve yourself food. I'm not talking about all that. I'm just saying, I remember for me, I was a broke college kid. A lot of y'all know my story. And I remember doing my budget, and sometimes I would only have $50 to $100 for the month to do something nice for myself. And, that is not a lot of money. But I remember one time specifically, and I think this actually happened a few times, but I do remember one time I was doing my budget and I had $100 left over. And I just had it on my heart, Lord, I feel like you want me to do something with this that is specific. And so as I prayed, he did put it on my heart. You have a friend right now that's raising money for a missions trip. She's trying to go to Guatemala and she's $100 short from reaching her goal. So I want you to take that money and I want you to give it to her. I was like, okay, like I'll do it. But I knew, man, it's not going to be a very fun next 30 days. I'm not really going to be able to have any money to, buy myself anything or do something nice. But it was worth it, right? And so it's just little things like that. And sometimes obviously it can look like more of a sacrifice than just $100. I remember too in college, I didn't have a lot of money. So a lot of times it was sacrificing my time. All throughout college, I gave to my church. All throughout college, I served my church. I remember at one point I was leading two different small groups where I could, mentor and lead girls in middle school and high school. And that was something I decided to do because I saw when I was putting all of these girls together, there was so much disconnect because an 18-year-old girl was dealing with things differently from a 13-year-old girl. And so I did decide, okay, I know I'm going to have to sacrifice another evening of mine, but it's worth it. I really want to make sure that these girls are being heard, they're in a safe space, and they feel comfortable to share. So that's something I decided to do. So I hope that makes sense with that second point. You'll know when you just when you're ready to serve, when you're ready to come alongside a man and support him in what he's doing. And mind you, it's twofold. It should be the same from his end. You should have a partner who wants to hear about the things you're called to do and help you execute those things. Okay. Marriage is not a one man show. I know, listen, marriage can be intimidating because we see people approach it different ways, but I believe in a biblical marriage, a husband is called to love his wife and a wife is called to respect her husband. And when both parties are doing that, marriage is a very beautiful thing. So let's go ahead and let's move on to our last point. Point number 3. The last way that you know you are ready for marriage is when God is everything to you. Okay. I know a lot of times we can speak in a very cliche type of manner. I love the Lord with all my heart. Jesus is my husband. We say these things, but you have to be very honest with yourself and you have to kind of face the harsh reality, hypothetically speaking, right? So if I were to ask you right now, if God never gave you a husband, if God were to share with you, I'm actually not going to be your husband, give you a husband, I'm going to be your husband. How would that make you feel? Right? I mean, we're human. We're human. So at first, that might be a hard pill to swallow, right? But ultimately, if you can ponder and process that question, and if you can honestly say, well, the Lord never gave me a husband, I would be sad, but, and I don't know if sad's the right word, but y'all get what I'm saying. You might feel disappointed. That's a better word. I might feel a little disappointed that his plan looked differently from what I had in mind and what I wanted, but I know that as long as I have God, I have everything. If that's the type of mentality you have, that even if the Lord never gave you a husband, you will still be content and satisfied in him, knowing that he's going to provide for you, he's going to protect you, he's going to give you the comfort that you need, he's going to always, he's always with you. But just knowing that I have Jesus, if that just fills you and makes you feel so at peace and fulfilled and full, then I would say you are exactly where you need to be. We as women have to get to a point in our walk with Christ where he literally is everything to us. He is the example. And that's why being single is such a special season, because it's during this time where the Lord can show you how a man is supposed to love you and serve you and treat you. All of these things, right? I mean, we see it in earthly families. That's why it's so important for men to be in the home with their families, because, little girls need to see their father love their mother the proper way, so that when their time comes, they can rightly assess when a man is being respectful and loving to them and when they're not, right? So that they're not settling. How much more does your Heavenly Father want to show you the same? Some of you, I'm moving with the Spirit right now. Some of you ladies are in toxic relationships. Some of you ladies right now have toxic partners, and you are giving these men a pass. And you're giving them a pass because they had a rough childhood, they didn't have a daddy growing up, they got trauma, and they are treating you like a punching bag. Baby girl, that is not normal. That is not healthy. And if you continue to be in that type of relationship and you continue to let a man treat you that way, you're in for a rough ride. Okay? You're not even supposed to be on that ride, because he don't even have a relationship with the Lord, and you know that. And you continue to put yourself though in these situations. Listen, the wages of sin is death. So if you want to continue to be outside of God's will for your life, understand that there are consequences. And should something pop off, don't be upset with God, okay? Because this is your gentle warning that you are not where you're supposed to be, and the Lord has better for you. There's also other women right now. I'm still flowing with the Spirit, okay? There's also a second group of you ladies. You have grown impatient and you're taking matters into your own hands. And you are settling for these men who do not fear God. They're telling you they believe in God, they believe God is real, and you are settling for that. They don't go to church, they don't believe in the institution of the church. That's what they always say. And furthermore, that they do not love Jesus, and they are not leading you into being more like him. They're not. They're actually leading you astray. That's what they're doing. These are not godly men. You are out here as a woman of God messing around and dating Satan's sons. Satan got kids too, by the way. You out here messing with the children of darkness, and it's going to get you in trouble. That is not God's plan for you. Okay? God, I don't think we understand how much he really cares for us. Okay? Listen, ladies, you got to stop. You got to stop. You have to come to the end of yourself, and you have to surrender. You have to surrender. You need to give that to the Lord. Give that to him. Okay? He wants something so much better for you. He cares. All right? So now that I'm finished with that, let me get back on the topic. I know it's getting dark in here. The sun is starting to set, so it's a little dark. I don't know if you can still see me that clearly. Like I said, there's so many other things that I could say, but whenever you get to that place as a single woman where God is not just your portion, but when he's your treasure, when he's everything, when you believe that you have everything because you have Jesus, and you might not have a man, but that's okay because you have Jesus. Let me tell you, that's good. That's good, okay? Because you have to get to a point where you believe, I don't necessarily need a man, but I would like one, right? Because you don't need a man. You don't need a man, right? But we do desire. We have a desire for our husband. It's a real thing, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, by the way. Well, look, I hear the motorcycles starting up. We ran with this. We did pretty good, okay? So let me hurry up before Boozy come on. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If there was something I said that really jumped out at you, feel free to comment that below. Or maybe you're someone who you are married, you've been married. Maybe you noticed something in your own heart and spirit that was that indicator. Ding, ding, ding. I think I'm ready. Feel free to share that. It might be something that I did not mention. Feel free to share that below as well. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, do me a favor and go ahead and click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. They're really getting loud out there now. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.